Welcome to Dumo Plays. I am Dumo, and today I want to talk about Splatoon 2 concepts and rules. I really like when concepts are broken down to their most simple form, a single rule or two. This allows me to concentrate on one or two things on any given situation, and it basically dictates how I'm going to react in a lot of situations. So today I have one very simple rule. The rule has some layers to it to cover other situations, and when I follow my rule, I do well. I get more splats, I survive longer, my team does better. When I don't, I don't do so great. Now, the rule: if they are looking at you, do not shoot at them. It's very simple. I learned very early on that I suck, and trying to go head to head never ends well. At best, I might get a trade. At worst, I just don't help my team whatsoever. So early on when I was playing, this meant that either I was flanking the enemy or I was running away from them. If they're shooting at me, I would also just run away. Surviving allows me to put more ink on the ground, support my teammates, use my specials, and just contribute to the team. And when you're flanking, it essentially means that you're shooting from behind or at least at their side. This gives you more time to splat them while they're trying to turn towards you. And when they turn towards you, it's time to get out of there. But what happens when I'm flanking and they do turn to me? You know, a lot of times when you're flanking, you're overextended. You're limited in your options to run away and hide. And what if you need to hold a defensive position until your backup arrives? You don't want to give away the pedestal to the Rainmaker. You don't want to let them get through a checkpoint in tower control. So, what do you do? And what are you going to do if you're pushing as a team and backing up means that you're going to expose the player with the power clam or the Rainmaker or the player on the tower? Well, the small amendment, the rule still works. And the reason that it's going to work is actually one of my favorite parts of Splatoon, why I believe it's so unique and why it's so entertaining to me and interesting. And that's that you can actually flank a player when you start in front of them, just by swimming to the side. They can lose you in the ink, you can move very quickly. Very, very quickly. It's incredible how fast you move. You might not be able to get fully to the side or to their back, but you can take an angle, and simply taking an angle removes you from their line of fire. And with a small amendment to the rule, now that you know where they're shooting because you can see where their shots are landing, once you're off center, they're not technically looking at you anymore, so according to the rule, it's safe to shoot at them. But, of course, you're not far off the angle, so they're going to turn to you. And what now? Well, follow the rule. Stop shooting, move. It's simple, and then they're going to turn again. Well, they're facing you, so stop, swim, take your angle, shoot again, and you're just going to keep repeating this either until you win or until you go down. Even when you're flanking from the side, you can still follow the same steps, because as you're shooting at them, they're going to start turning towards you. So if you swim to the back after every couple shots, what's going to end up happening is it's just going to take them that much longer to turn to you and give you as much time as possible for you to actually get the splat. Now, often you're going to see two players in a battle performing this type of tactic, and they're going to enter a little sort of a dance. And to be perfectly honest, I absolutely love being a part of these, and I love watching them. It's one of my favorite things to watch in competitive play. It's a very entertaining moment. And this tactic, it works very well with tap shot weapons and the blasters as well, because even though you can hold down the blaster, you have a fairly significant amount of time in between shots. So basically you're forced to decide what to do at that point in time. So you tap, you move. With a blaster, you shoot. You've got some time, so you might as well take your angle now. It's always a great time to angle out after your shot. And I also find a lot of times rollers will work in a fairly similar fashion. Sloshers, toss a bucket or two, you angle out. I also find with the Brella, you take a shot, open your shield, and then you take an angle and you repeat. Dualies, well, instead of having to swim, you have the roll option. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the roll. I prefer to swim, but if you're going to run dualies, make use of the roll. It's right there. It's what makes them special and unique, and it works very similar. Actually, the hardest weapons to do this with also tend to be the easiest weapons for people to pick up. And Clash Blasters. So shooters don't force you to make that decision that the tap shot does, because you can just hold on until you run out of ink. So it becomes difficult to know when to move. And of course, Clash Blasters. They just charge at you, blasting away. And so, let's start by getting Clash Blasters out of the way. Every 2 shots, you should probably move. You're actually going to find you're going to trade less, and things are just going to work out better. I do find a lot of Clash Blasters trade simply because they're running at you, blasting. And if they were to take an angle, they would live a lot more. Now with shooters, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. It's going to depend on the weapon, and in general, your high-powered, medium-speed shooting weapons, you know, your splatter shot and your splatter shot pros, you're probably going to move every 2 to 4 shots, even when you have range on your opponent, because they are going to be trying to close that gap. You're going to try to keep the gap open, or at least make it harder for them to find you. It also makes it harder for flanking enemies to get to you if you keep moving. It's also going to screw up their hiding spots. If they're trying to hide from you and you manage to get off to the side a little bit, and all of a sudden you have just a little bit better view of their hiding spot, they're going to go down. Now with your faster, lower powered weapons that have a ton of ink output, we're talking your Splooshomatic. You're going to stay close to them, and you're going to move basically every second, every half second. You're just going to hound them and stay right in their face, because you have ink to move, so you're just going to be shooting, moving, and just stay there and harass them. If you watch any of my blaster gameplay, you're going to see that almost every shot, especially when I see someone, I'm going to move, generally to the side or forward. But every shot, I try to move away when I'm engaged with somebody. So try to keep an eye out for that when you're watching gameplay of other people. You're going to see a lot of high-end players doing this, and you're probably going to actually see it more often than you thought you did now. It might just be a tiny little shift. Just look for that tiny little shift, and that's all it takes to get out of the center line, out of the line of fire. And I'm going to end this by leaving you with one last point to think about when you're deciding where to move. You are trying to get to a position where you're going to be safe, where you're able to hit the opponent, and where it's hard for them to hit you. You also need ink to move in. So one direction I often choose is to move forward. Now, you don't want to run directly into someone shooting at you, but at the same time, they don't want to be where you are shooting, because they're going to go down very fast. So they're going to try to take an angle and follow up with their own shots, and by you following your shots, you're going to where they were, so you know they're not going to be there. They're trying to get away from there. It also makes it very difficult to fire where they came from. And this makes a great spot to be, because you were just shooting there. There's ink on the ground to move. You got ink to go. Now, this isn't always the best position to be. It isn't always the right choice, but it is always an option, and you'll find a lot of times it's a pretty good option, especially when you're running some sort of a blaster, because they're trying to get right away from that area. Again, with something like a sploosh where you're just trying to hound and harass them, that's where you want to be. Anyways, that's all I have for today. I hope this helps you out. I put a gameplay every Monday morning, and I try to do other content throughout the week as it allows. I'll be trying to do some more tutorials and maybe take a look at weapons and just some of the stats. Well, thanks for watching. Have a great day.